the Great British Manufacturing Podcast, brought to you by MTD, MFG and Jefferson.
Hello and welcome to the Great British Manufacturing Podcast. On this week's show, we will review the latest positive news from the British manufacturing sector and welcome a special guest, Sara Duff, UK Country Manager for Production Management Software Specialist, MRPeasy. Factory Now members are joining the platform every week, which has been launched to help British manufacturers boost sales, collaborate and reshore. Members include door specialists, Efforflex and European Springs and Pressings, manufacturers of the largest springs range in the UK. My name is Joe Reynolds and joining me is my co-host Stuart Whitehead. Stuart, how are you?
Very good, Joe, and how's your holiday?
Oh, it's wonderful. Yeah, it is worth pointing out actually, I'm not in my Sandvik studio this week, I'm in my holiday home lounge, so if you can hear some background noise that would explain why. But yeah, I'm in sunny Wales, or not so sunny Wales this week. But yeah, no, it's all good. And you well?
Yeah, very, very good, Joe, and yeah, very jealous of your trip to Wales. So yeah, enjoy it.
Let's jump straight in with the news. The government's launched their first ever hydrogen strategy. I must admit, I've done a bit of reading on this one, and it's good news in my opinion.
No, absolutely. I think you covered it on your GB News slot, didn't you, earlier this week? Tens of thousands of jobs, billions of pounds of investment, new export opportunities are set to be unlocked through government plans to create a thriving, low-carbon hydrogen sector in the UK over the next decade and beyond. The Business Secretary has set out the UK's first ever hydrogen strategy to drive forward the commitments laid out in the Prime Minister's 10-point plan for a green industrial revolution by setting the foundation for how the UK government will work with industry to meet its ambition for 5 gigawatts of low-carbon hydrogen production capacity by 2030. And this could replace natural gas in powering around 3 million UK homes each year, as well as powering transport and businesses, particularly heavy industry. The figures are astonishing. A booming UK-wide hydrogen economy could be worth £900 million, create over 9,000 high-quality jobs by the end of this decade. And this potentially could rise to 100,000 jobs and could be worth up to £13 billion by 2050.
Yeah, it's great news, isn't it, Stuart? It's great news, and it's we hear a lot about hydro, we hear a lot about wind turbines, electric cars, etc. So yeah, it's good that it's in the news. Moving on to the next one, electric vehicle manufacturer WEVC to build 2 new factories in the UK. That's more factories, more EV factories indeed.
Yeah, certainly been a theme this year with the podcast, Joe. And Cornwall-based firms announced plans to build 5,000 electric commercial vehicles per annum and its own brand on behalf of third-party manufacturers. It's an all-new production facility in the Midlands, all of which will be based on its new EV platform. This platform is called PACES, Passenger and Commercial EV Skateboard, and the architecture allows the niche vehicle industry to meet the considerable challenges of transitioning to an electric future by providing a sophisticated yet cost-effective EV platform essentially off the shelf. The company's gone through a comprehensive development process with this platform over the last couple of years, and it's market ready. WEVC also plans to open a new production facility in Cornwall that will focus on the low-volume manufacturing of sports cars and passenger EVs. Great news for the industry, great news for Cornwall.
Quite. And the next news story is our good friends at Sandvik Coromant. They're building a new innovation centre at Halesowen.
Yeah, I think MTD broke this story with your contacts there at Sandvik earlier this week. So work has commenced on a new UK facility in the West Midlands town for the metal cutting leader. The Swedish-owned firm has been based in Halesowen since 1958, and its historical building is now undergoing a revival, will be demolished and transformed into a new landmark UK headquarters. In addition to housing the company's employees, the facility will act as a hub for manufacturing innovation, customer interactions, forming part of a wider Sandvik Coromant Centre global network. And the new facility is due to open next summer.
Yeah, it's great news. Anyone that's been near the M5 by Kidderminster there, they'll know the iconic Sandvik building. That's to go, but it's going to be replaced by an even nicer one. So great news. We'll take a short break here, Stuart, because I'd like to introduce this week's special guest. And it is no other than Sara Duff, UK Country Manager for MRPeasy. Sara, welcome.
Yeah, good morning, Joe. Good morning, Stuart.
So as always, we'd just like to hear a bit about you, really, your current role to date, your career and your responsibilities.
Yes, so I've spent 25 years or more, actually, in the corporate market. So I've sort of run a sales teams and on business development, marketing, channel management in a number of corporate IT and telecoms companies. But then about 4 years ago, thought it was time to do something different. And we formed the company Smart Quality Services. And it's all about making a difference to small businesses, helping them improve sort of continual improvement, drive operational efficiency. And we've had two sides to that business. Smart Quality, which is really about helping companies implement ISO standards and get manage their ongoing certification and wider health and safety and environmental compliance, but also Smart Manufacture, which specifically works with small manufacturers of all across all different industry sectors, moving them away from spreadsheets, manual-based systems to help them streamline and automate their processes through a range of cloud-based software. And it was really through this side of the business that we got involved with MRPeasy, initially as one of their solution partners. So helping those customers who needed sort of additional support in terms of looking at their processes to make sure the correct process mapping is done, and then also to help support their implementation of MRPeasy. So that was our original relationship with MRPeasy. And then back in autumn last year, I got approached by MRPeasy to say that they'd looked at their global strategy and decided there were 3 key markets for them where they saw a significant expansion opportunity, and those markets being the UK, Germany, and the US. But they felt it was important to have somebody in each of those markets who knew the market, who obviously clearly has an understanding of MRPeasy, but also had the right contacts and relationships across the market to help them really drive that expansion. So I became their country manager in the UK in autumn last year. And it's been very much a sort of PR awareness marketing role to really drive wider awareness of the MRPeasy software.
Fascinating. In terms of MRP, there's quite a few MRP systems out there. What sets it apart?
Yeah, I think what sets it apart is really when MRPeasy first formed, which was back in the days of 2000, and they were sort of developing really high performance web applications. Then in 2010, they really saw a need for, there are a lot of ERP and MRP applications. A lot of them are quite complex and really targeted at sort of bigger manufacturers and distributors, but they felt there was a real gap in the market for bringing some of that functionality, at a very more user-friendly perspective, and also very importantly for small manufacturers and distributors at a price point that they could justify. So they've really honed in on that particular marketplace, which is really for companies, as I said, small manufacturers, small distributors, really with sort of between about 10 and 200 employees. And MRPeasy, has brought that functionality, and in some cases very comprehensive functionality that you would typically sort of see in bigger package. So most people have come across sort of SAP, Business One, or Oracle NetSuite, or Epicor, but obviously as a small manufacturer or small distributor, often there's a degree of complexity of using those products. Obviously it's they're at a price point, both in terms of license pricing and any consultancy for implementation, which normally has put those products out of reach for them. But MRPeasy brings that functionality at a price point to that smaller market.
That's fascinating, and thanks for the overview and some of your background as well, Sara. So you talked about SMEs. Is there a typical profile of the type of manufacturer MRPeasy works with, and also what are they hoping to achieve, and what kind of metrics are they using to measure the success or otherwise of implementing the software?
Yeah, so the typical sort of profile is, as I said, between about 10 and 200 employees across any sector and any type of manufacturing, whether they're bespoke manufacturers, so making to order, whether they're sort of project-based manufacturers, sort of assemble to order or engineer to order, or whether they're manufacturing to sort of stock or batch or a hybrid, and across any industry sector. So we've worked with fencing manufacturers, with cosmetic manufacturers, textile businesses, automotive, aerospace, you name it, virtually any industry sector. So it's not, obviously the functionality isn't specific to any one industry sector. I suppose the majority of companies are really seeing MRPeasy as the sort of first step for them in moving away from traditional sort of paper-based systems and disparate Excel spreadsheets, and really being able to unite all of their core sort of business functions. So from the sales, the inventory management, the purchasing, production management, and accounts. And I guess a lot of people see MRPeasy and ERP software as that sort of gateway to Industry 4.0. So it's the first step on that journey. In terms of sort of success, a lot of companies come to us because they really are frustrated by their creaking spreadsheets, is a phrase that I hear a lot. They don't have that. There's a big thing that's missing. They don't have that end-to-end visibility across of what's going on in their manufacturing business, across their end-to-end operation. And so MRPeasy, and indeed any ERP system, is bringing that, if you like, that single truth to the business in terms of being able to get that visibility, across their business.
Oh, fantastic. And you very kindly sent us a case study prior to the recording the podcast, the Kinetica one. Would you mind just explaining that as well as you could to illustrate what you do and what the implementation of your software achieves?
Yeah, so I could have picked several case studies, but Kinetica is an interesting one from a number of perspectives because they are a relatively new company. So they formed back in December 2019. They're a small company with 7 employees based in Ferndown in Dorset. And they distribute tubes, valves, accessories, fluidic accessories, but also they design and develop and manufacture bespoke components. So some of their customers include bigger manufacturers of medical devices like life support machines, like inflationary beds for patients who have bed sores, etc. So when they set up, their products aren't specific to any one industry sector. And when they first set up, they were very much focusing on sort of the automotive and industrial sectors. But then when COVID broke, they realized that they had an opportunity, I think that phrase is, to pivot their business, and they decided to focus on the medical devices sector. But 2 of the directors had some previous experience with other ERP software. So they had the wherewithal to know, the potential value it would bring to the business. And they had very much a determined strategy when they set up the business, that they wanted to, have a paperless, as far as possible, a paperless sort of strategy. They put in a wireless infrastructure in their factory, and therefore they were using Xero as their accounting software, but really they found that when they were trying to start the business with spreadsheets, it just really wasn't working for them. So they analysed a number of ERP software platforms. One of the key requirements, apart from the cost basis, was, apart from integrating with their accounting software Xero, was lot traceability, and that is a very, very big aspect and requirement for customers, whether they're servicing the medical devices, automotive, food. It tends to be, when we have conversations, one of the top requirements. So they looked at a range of software. They evaluated and chose MRPeasy. MRPeasy is, as I think I mentioned earlier, a very user-friendly system, and it has been designed specifically for small to medium-sized manufacturers, and therefore from a perspective of getting used to the software, implementing it, with quite a breadth of collateral that's online, there is the opportunity for those manufacturers that have had, I would say, previous experience of ERP software to be able to implement the software themselves, which the guys at Kinetica were able to do, and quite quickly. So they commenced that implementation in April last year. From what it's brought to the business, and I mentioned earlier that end-to-end visibility. So when you go into their factory unit, the first thing that you see is a very large screen which has the MRPeasy dashboard on it, and basically that shows them at any point in time all of the outstanding purchase orders, when raw materials are coming in, what the status of customer orders is, the status of where jobs are in the manufacturing process. And therefore they are able to be very, very proactive with their customers, and they've had a lot of feedback on that. So whereas, in the case that happens, unfortunately, with some manufacturers that, they only realize that there's a problem when their customer calls them and that they find, gosh, we're 2 weeks behind schedule because that raw material that we desperately needed hasn't come in, and therefore they're always on the back foot with going back and explaining that to customers. What MRPeasy allows Kinetica to do is be proactive. So if they see that there is an issue with the raw material coming in, they can use the production schedule and the drag and drop feature to move jobs around. But very importantly, they get that opportunity to set the right expectation with their customers, which, as I said, has been very positively highlighted. So MRPeasy is enabling them really, I guess, as a small company to punch above their weight. They've got sort of the systems in place that bigger companies would have, and therefore that's also helped them with certain sort of bigger projects that they're currently working on to be able to sort of position themselves for that type of business.
Yeah, fantastic, and what a great case study. You talked about COVID. With regards to the pandemic, in your opinion, in your experience, has that accelerated digital transformation? What effect has that had on industry?
Yes, I mean, I think obviously when COVID first broke, a lot of manufacturers were sort of inwardly looking and working out what they were going to do with their business. But what I think it's there's been quite a bit of I would call it a wake-up call to small manufacturers to say, look, we might have been working this way for many years. We've been working with paper-based systems and spreadsheets. We now need to, drive forward, make changes in the business, allow ourselves to, to drive efficiency, be more profitable, get into new markets. And the only way we can do that is to have a better sort of control over our operations. I think within the small manufacturing community, I would say there is still, and I generalize, there's still very much a fear factor of technology. I think there's a lot of buzzwords going around like Industry 4.0, IDTs or industrial digitalized technologies. And I think, with the average sort of age, certainly of some of the manufacturers that I deal with, they're the same age as myself, but obviously they haven't necessarily had the same sort of background and immersion with technology. There is that fear factor that, gosh, this is, going to be too difficult for me to use, and I think people have heard stories about bigger ERP implementations that, have taken months and months, cost an arm and a leg, as some of the phrases that have been quoted back to me, and haven't really delivered for the business in that right way. It has put a lot of manufacturers off. There's also the view that, it's not going to go down well with their staff. They're going to have to get used to change. So I think there's a fair bit of rising awareness, wider education work that needs to be done. I mean, I think to quote one, I think the government's Made Smarter program is an excellent initiative. It obviously got initially piloted in the Northwest, and it's now expanded to the West Midlands, to the Northeast. Hopefully it will roll out wider. I think the guys there are doing a great job in terms of sort of raising awareness and bringing expertise to small manufacturers, and obviously the match funding that they can offer really is helping small manufacturers to accelerate that journey towards digital technology. But I think there's still a lot more work that needs to be done in that area.
No, absolutely. And I think, the Made Smarter program has been a roaring success, and I'm based in the Northwest and saw it in its infancy, and so pleased it's going around the UK. Final question for me. I believe that you are celebrating or about to celebrate a major milestone. Have you got 200 UK companies signed up?
We have. So we've just released our press release. So yes, this week we hit our 200th customer sign up, which is a great achievement. We and that is, as I said, across all sectors, and that goes with just over 900 customers that we have globally, including sort of 300 in the US. So it is a big milestone, and we've just also had our record month in July in terms of new trialists, and that is a big aspect with MRPeasy. Any customer is able to get access to a free up to 30-day trial of the software to obviously test it out, load up bill of materials, really get a flavour of what the software can do to their business. So July was a record achievement. So we're hoping that that will translate into a good volume of paying customers, obviously by the end of this month.
Yeah, fantastic. Absolutely wonderful insight. Are there any common misconceptions, with MRP software?
I think one of the areas is, and I've highlighted it earlier, is around, gosh, it's all going to be very difficult to use. My staff aren't going to take to it. It's going to be too complex. And I think that is true of a number of ERP platforms. But one of the sort of main attributes, and it comes across with all of the customers that I speak to, is the simple user interface, the easy to use platform. So it means that sort of the staff, whatever aspect of IT literacy they have, they can pick up utilizing the software very, very easily. So not all ERP software needs to be complex.
Yeah, just a final one for me. For people wanting to learn more about the software, about you and your company, how do they reach out to you? How do they get more information?
So the first stop is the MRPeasy.com website. There is a wealth of information in terms of online videos. There's a very good starter video that walks you through the sort of core functions of the software, and then there's videos on every element of the functionality. There's a number of case studies. Obviously, the Kinetica is one, but there's quite a few others. You can also there get access to sign up to the free trial. You can contact myself directly at sara.duff@mrpeasy.com.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for coming onto the podcast, Sara. Been been lots of information. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure joining you today.
Stu, an interesting interview, that one.
Yeah, fascinating interview, and it's love the case study, and all the very best to Sara and all of MRPeasy.
Yeah, let's jump straight back into news. There's plenty to go on. There's good news coming from Wrightbus at the moment.
Yeah, Wrightbus is to create up to 300 new jobs after winning a string of orders from the UK and Ireland. The firm, which is leading the world in zero-emission passenger transport, will also convert 120 existing temporary jobs into permanent positions as it looks to ramp up production at its Ballymena headquarters. Quite a history with Wrightbus. It's brought out of administration by Joe Branford. I believe he's the son of JCB, or heir to JCB manufacturing firm in October 2019. They had just 56 members of staff when they took over. Now, thanks to an incredible period of growth, driven by the development of this world-leading technology, including the creation of the first hydrogen double-decker bus, the firm is on track to have 930 permanent employees once a new positions have been filled.
Yeah, a dynamic family. When you look at the JCB, when you look at JCB and Wrightbus, good luck to both companies. The next story: funding's been awarded to help accelerate the UK automotive industry towards these net zero carbon emissions. What do you know about this one? It's a good story, isn't it?
Yeah, certainly, and certainly well received on social media this week. And so there's 4 projects, one of which is BMW. They've been awarded £26.2 million to develop an electric car battery that can offer a similar driving range to internal combustion engines as part of the funding programme into green automotive technology, which totals £91.7 million. The BMW scheme, which will be based at the firm's Oxford plant, is one of 4 projects that will receive government and industry funding through the Advanced Propulsion Centre's Collaborative Research and Development Competition. I think they need a new name for that competition. Combined, the projects are expected to save 32 million tonnes of carbon emissions and secure more than 2,700 jobs across the UK.
Yeah, fantastic. Next one, Village Bakery opens a new facility in Wrexham.
Yeah, it's a great story, this. The original complex was destroyed by fire a couple of years ago, and it just shows to use a football parlance, bounce back ability of manufacturing. So the new super bakery in Wrexham is up and running less than 2 years after the fires, as I said. It started rolling off the production line at the 140,000 square foot plant, which is 4 times the size of the one it replaced. The bakery features a 120-metre long state-of-the-art manufacturing line, which can make 36,000 bread rolls an hour, plenty for breakfast, Joe. As well as housing the company's main offices, the new complex also includes a baking academy, a kitchen, and both twice the size of the previous ones. The firm is in the process of recruiting 115 new staff to meet demand for its product.
Yeah, just incredible. They've had some good news of late, Wrexham, with the football club takeover and things. But this next story, Gestamp, the launch of recruitment drive in the Durham-based factory. I must admit, I haven't come across this one, me being off the airwaves, if you like, this week on holiday. So what can you tell us about this? I know a lot about Gestamp, great company, but it looks like they're recruiting.
This broke late last night, and so we've got a few details, not too many. Spanish-owned automotive components manufacturers announced plans to create 130 jobs at its Newton Aycliffe factory, where it already employs more than 1,000 people. And this is after securing new long-term contracts with JLR, BMW and Nissan. Many of the components of these contracts will be exported across Europe, and the Madrid headquartered firm has invested significantly in equipment and training to accommodate these new products. So more good news for the automotive industry and great news for the North East.
Thanks, Stu. We'll leave it there. That's all we've got time for this week. There's plenty more news available on the MTD MFG app. Download it if you don't have it. Obviously, the MTD MFG website. A big thank you to Sara Duff, today's guest. Thank you to you, Stuart. But as always, the biggest thank you goes to you at home for listening. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Great British Manufacturing Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and a review. You can find us on Twitter using @MTDMFG and @Jefferson_MFG.